more of us now than there have ever been. We number nearly 4 billion. The world population will double in less than 35 years if we continue to multiply. Continue to add more people to a planet already unable to feed those of us alive today. Only in recent years have governments, educators, and concerned individuals taken a closer look at the interreacting parts that, when assembled, portray a total image. A picture of the future, unpleasant to contemplate. Demography, the study of human populations, has become an increasingly important tool for the examination of alternative futures. The accelerating, dizzying speed with which the planet is overpopulating must be paralleled by a similar growth in monitoring of statistics and their accessibility. The ever-present computer, the machine that now seems destined to be man's constant companion, can be designed and programmed to provide instant electronic answers about where we have been, where we are, and where we may be going. Information, statistics, curves, probabilities, knowledge can all be collected, culled, collated, and transformed into an electronic memory available at a touch. This is the Computer-Based Education Research Laboratory at the University of Illinois in Urbana, where the computer Plato is located. Plato's demographic program is provided by the Population Dynamics Group, headed by Dr. Paul Handler. The first Plato was born here in 1959. This is the heart of Plato 4. Plato is a fourth-generation computer-assisted instructional system. Today's great-grandson reflects the refinements of years of experimentation and design sophistication. Plato is an acronym for Programmed Logic for Automatic Teaching Operation, but he seems a person nonetheless. The system comes to life as a plasma display. 250,000 points of light give him the easy ability to translate information from computer memory to visual display, a display activated and changed by a touch on a keyboard. The only umbilical linking Plato with his display terminals is a telephone line. The imperturbable Plato can simultaneously communicate with more than 500 display terminals located throughout the United States. Contained in his electronic memory are more than 100 courses for teaching and reference. The Population Dynamics Group is constantly expanding and updating demographic programs for Plato. Statistics are instantly available for more than 100 countries. Plato can display a number of conditions using a variety of data into any program looking toward the future. With data such as this, the inquisitive demographer can create alternative futures for any country. How do demographics function? The Population Dynamics Group, exercising a bit of playful programming, introduces a computerized ground zero. Plato carries a ringer in his memory banks. a mythical country. It is called Delta. Delta is created out of whole cloth, let's assume, in 1964. However, Delta has no people. For a programmer and his computer, this is no problem. Plato is asked to provide an instant population. Between 1965 and 1970, Delta acquires a population of 10 million children, all under age 5. No adults, just a miraculous appearance of babies. The 1970 Delta census shows a population of 9,400,000. All children are age 0 to 4. Some of the 10 million babies have died. Even with a mythical country, Plato has factored in an infant mortality rate. Delta's population is monitored as these imaginary individuals grow up, living out their lives in seconds. In 1975, the group is aged 5 to 9. More have died. In 1980, the number is down again. Now, in 1985, the Deltans are all 15 to 19. At age 20, the females will be entering an arbitrarily designated childbearing period. Also arbitrarily, the women of Delta will each have 4 live births by the time they are 29. Suddenly, it's 1990. All women are 20 to 24 years old. Children have begun to arrive. By 1995, the women are having their second and third children. The number of children 0 to 4 is nearly twice the number of youngsters aged 5 to 9. The Delta women are taken out of their childbearing period at age 30. But the women under 30 are still having children. In the year 2000, all of the original women are out of their childbearing period. All children in Delta are aged from 0 to 14. No children are born during the next 5-year period. The first children are now 15 to 19. During the next 5-year period, from 2005 to 2010, they move into childbearing age. Now, in 2010, the first grandchildren have begun to appear. Moving through the next 20 years, finally, the original infant settlers are now 65 to 69. Their children are 35 to 49. The grandchildren and great-grandchildren range in age from 0 to 29. "20 years later, the founders are now 85 and older. They have nearly died out. But by now, in only 90 years, Delta has grown from 10 million babies to more than 95 million people of all ages. Delta is not a real country, but the chronological march through time, with the attendant reproductive cycle of its people, is all too real. Perhaps conservatively so. Plato can compare the populations and age compositions of 2 countries. One of the highest population growth rates in Latin America is that of Mexico, where the fertility rate is more than 6 births. Japan, like most industrialized nations, is moving toward stabilizing its growth. A Japanese woman, on the average, gives birth to only about 2 children. This is Mexico's age composition in 1970. The total population is a bit more than 50 million. As in the mythical country of Delta, there are about 10 million children in the 0 to 4 age cohort. In the last 30 years, the Mexican population has grown very rapidly. Plato can provide details about the Mexican age composition. How many children are 0 to 14 years old? The answer is approximately 23 million, 46% of the population. This can be contrasted with the same age group in Japan. Percentage-wise, there are fewer of these children in the Japanese population. This indicates a significantly different family size composition. Japan shows a somewhat diminished number of people in the 50 to 54-year-old age group. This is due to the casualties suffered during World War II. The 20 to 24-year-old cohort is quite large. These are the people conceived in the late 1940s, after the men came home. In 1948, Japan passed a liberal abortion law. As a result, the next youngest group, now aged 15 to 19, is smaller. The 10 to 14 group is smaller still. 5 to 9 is about the same size. The newest cohort is larger, not because Japanese women have increased their fertility rate, but because there are more parents in this childbearing age group. A tale of two countries. In both, the number of children 0 to 4 is about 10 million, but Japan's population is twice that of Mexico. In Japan, there is 1 child for every 2 adults. In Mexico, the dependency rate is twice that, 1 child for each adult. What does this mean to the trained observer? For Mexico, more than twice the educational cost load per adult. Just to maintain current educational levels, Mexico will have to build and staff schools at an expansion rate of 3.5% per year. Increasing the enrollment rate to achieve universal education would call for even higher costs. More people means that more of everything will be needed. More people is more mouths to feed. The population of Colombia is increasing at a rate of more than 3.5% a year. At this rate, the population will double in about 20 years. Today, Colombian women give birth to more than 6 children. The average life expectancy is nearly 60 years. How many mouths will there be to feed in less than 60 years, given no change in the fertility rate and life expectancy? This projection assumes no improvement in the 1970 national diet. Plato indicates that by 2030, the demand for food will be 8 to 9 times the 1970 total. What are the alternatives? Plato is asked to forecast what would happen if the fertility rate were to be reduced gradually to 3 live births per woman over the next 20 years. With this reduction, the need for food in 2030 is only 3 times the 1970 figures. Reducing the fertility rate to 2 births over a 20-year period, the approximate level today in the United States and Japan, yields this level of demand for food. Food production would have to be doubled. This is an attainable goal. Plato answers questions. Unfortunately, he cannot provide solutions. Computers have not replaced people. The final responsibility is still a human one. The continued rate of increase in the demand for energy is a most critical problem in all countries today. With its rapidly increasing population, a country like Guatemala doesn't have an energy problem. It has an energy crisis. Guatemala's per-person use of energy has been rising at a rate of 3.5% every year. This growth, added on to the increasing population, will mean that in the year 2000, Guatemala will have an energy demand more than 7 times greater than in 1970. Plato is asked to reduce the fertility rate from 6.4 to 2 during a 20-year period. Even with this threefold reduction, the energy demand in less than 30 years is still more than 6 times the 1970 rate. Another alternative is to ask Plato what would happen if the annual demand increase rate is reduced to 2% from 3.5 over a 5-year period. This still assuming a final fertility rate of 2 births. The answer is still a giant increase to 4 times the 1970 consumption rate. What would happen if the energy demand were held to a 0 rate of increase during the first 5-year period? Even with the fertility reduction program, the per capita energy demand in 2000 is still more than twice the 1970 figure. The possible futures of a country's educational needs and costs are also included in the material that Plato can draw upon. Primary education in Bolivia costs 600 pesos a year per student. Adding students to the system entails a per-student expansion cost of 7,000 pesos. Only about 72 of every 100 children receive even primary schooling. Plato is asked what it will cost to educate the children who will be born between 1970 and 2000, assuming no change in fertility or mortality. The annual cost goes up to more than 875 million pesos. What happens if universal education is to be achieved within 15 years? Now the total is 1.2 billion pesos. How can these costs be reduced? The reduction of live births to 2.5 during the next 20 years, along with a climb to universal education, is requested. The annual cost in the year 2000 is now reported as approximately 410 million pesos. The pesos not spent on expanding primary education to accommodate a giant child population can now be used to provide other social services. Populations are people. They must eat, be educated, and they must work. There should be employment for every adult. Peru, 1970. The total population visualized by age groups. This is the labor force. The population is 13.6 million. The labor force is 4.6 million. 1/3 of the total population. This number is low because of the great number of children under the age of 15. In industrialized countries such as Japan, the labor force is nearly half of the total population. Plato is asked the expected population and labor force in 1990, assuming no changes in fertility and mortality. In that year, the population numbers 26 million. The labor force has grown to 8.7 million from 4.6 million in 1970. By 1990, 1 new job will have to be created for each job that now exists. An immediate reduction in fertility would have no effect. Most of those in the labor force in that year have already been born. The die has already been cast.
¿Cuál sería la producción ideal para satisfacer las necesidades?
The Population Dynamics program that Plato offers presents demography as a living, reacting science. Gone are the endless columns of statistics, formulas, and time-consuming searches for information. The programmers have already assembled the data. Plato makes it available, teaching and demonstrating, tracking generations as yet unborn in trails of glowing light.
If your country continues to
Si su país
grow
continúa a crecer
at the same rate,
en la misma tasa que sigue creciendo,
in order to feed your country
para poder abastecer su país en el mismo
at the same nutritional level,
nivel nutricional,
by 1975,
en 1975
you will need 18% more food than
ustedes
you did in
necesitarán
1970.
18% más comida en comparación al año 1970.
By 1980, over 40%
En
more food.
1980 más que 40% más de alimentos.
By 1985,
En 1985
more than 2/3 again as much food as
más que
1970.
2/3 en comparación al año 1970.
And by 1990,
Y en
almost twice as
1990,
much.
casi 2 veces la cantidad.
It may appear that Plato functions as a prophet of doom, casting baleful predictions of an overpopulated future.
Thank you.
He is only the messenger. Plato deals in hard, cold facts, using the knowledge and data embedded in his electronic memory,
No,
information collected from official records,
this particular
then implementing the computational power of the system to project them forward in time.
The country is growing.
depende de la tasa de crecimiento del país.
¿Cuántos puestos de trabajo
How many additional jobs
necesitaremos
are
en mi país
necessary in my country
de acuerdo al crecimiento de población
according to populational growth
en los próximos 10 años?
in the next 10 years?
By
En
1975,
75
that will increase to 1.438
aumentará a 1.438
million.
millones.
By 1980,
En 1980,
1.703 million.
1.703
So you will need
millones.
about
¿Cuánto?
1.703 millones.
500,000 more new
Así que
jobs
necesitarán medio millón de nuevos empleos.
by 1980.
En 1980.
Medio millón de...
Medio millón. 500,000 more.
Well, and if we go on to 1980.
Plato provides instant electronic answers to questions about the future. He does not forecast the future. The machine, Plato 4, tells us only what the futures of our countries and the world may be. Man must choose the path he will take toward tomorrow.